Look, the reliability today of the mainstream press, particularly the New York Times and the Washington Compost, as I like to call them, is somewhat between a Ouija board and Tokyo Rose. That's how reliable these anonymous sources are. And that's what we have to start questioning. Who are these sources? If you can't name them, maybe you shouldn't publish the story, because you get embarrassed time after time, caught with your pants around your ankles, when it turns out that the stuff that you're breathlessly putting on the front page is absolutely untrue, and most of it has been.
Well, and we've heard that from former FBI Director Comey when he was testifying. He said so many of these stories that were out were completely false, but it's not my job to go out and be correcting all these things that were said. But here's what we know. Just a couple of days ago, the Washington Post cited 5 sources, that they say told them that the president is now under investigation by Mueller for obstruction of justice. That's 5 people. Now, a spokesperson for Mueller's office says we put very stringent controls in place and will deal severely with people who leak, and yet it is still happening.
Well, whoever's leaking this, if it's an inside government person, they've committed a felony, and they should go to prison for a very long time. I don't think that's where it's coming from. I think a lot of this stuff they're just pulling out of the thin blue air, or that people are just calling up and saying, this is true. You can fill Jet Stadium with people who will be anonymous sources, but it doesn't mean that there's any veracity to their claims. And we've lost the art of journalism in America, where there is no checking of facts and getting it verified repeatedly by many, many sources that are willing to go on the record. And the result is, I don't blame Donald Trump for being angry. I want the entire country to be upset with this kind of shoddy reporting, because it's frankly disruptive to the work of our republic.
Well, and Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein has issued a statement. We want to read part of that. He says Americans should exercise caution before accepting as true any stories attributed to anonymous, quote, officials, particularly when they do not identify the country, let alone the branch or agency of government with which the alleged sources supposedly are affiliated. He says Americans should be skeptical about anonymous allegations. The Department of Justice has a long-established policy to neither confirm nor deny such allegations. I mean, he's making that statement in a week where we're getting all kinds of interesting revelations.
Everybody talks about Russia and fake news. How do we know this didn't come from Russian fake news sources? I want to go back to something I've said for years. People who know don't talk, and people who talk don't know. That's a maxim of politics. When I see people who are, telling me something that happens, I feel like that if they're talking, they don't really know. And if they really know, they're not talking, because you don't get in a circle of trust, to borrow a Robert De Niro line from...
Such a great movie.
It was a great movie. But you don't get in that circle of trust if you can't be trusted. And the people close to Donald Trump, if they're talking, they don't belong in the circle of trust. The truth is, that's not who's talking. These are people who are making this stuff up to make Donald Trump look bad, because I'm convinced there is an attempt to overthrow, and I use that word purposely, overthrow this president, and that is anarchy.